Toonami Society.
Episode 10.
Episode 10? What's that?
Episode 10.
Yeah, the episode 10. I mean, technically, if you want to go how it's actually structured, I think we'd probably be at episode 13. There were a few misfires and a few episodes carried on to a two-parter or so. But this is our legitimate episode 10.
Topic 10, rather.
Yeah, topic 10, episode 10, or whatever we want to call it, and it's sex in the future. And I am joined here today on Monday, December 17th at 8 o'clock, and it's myself, Gabriel Shahrouzi, and Ali Arnaiz. Oh, so close, I'll get it by episode 15. And yeah, this is interesting. This is the first Toonami Society episode that we have had two people on. I think that's pretty cool.
It's good, there's lots of space.
Yeah,
For such a big topic. I didn't come up with anything though.
Really?
Yeah, I mean I have ideas as to what is an interesting.
Did you get caught up with the whole debate thing? That's what my mind was kind of stuck on because I don't have a lot of background in that.
I just didn't know how we were gonna set it up, so I was kind of just all right, you know how you feel about things, you can do it. I didn't feel like I needed to prepare myself for this conversation, but I guess now I wish I thought of something. But you know what? I already have something.
I love that. For me, the fact that Dakota threw out for episode 10, we should do a debate, something formal, we should choose sides and challenge each other. I was all for that. Yeah. I really love that Shannon had suggested that because, I think this space is really special and really cool, but I do think there's some merit or some value to unpacking ideas and challenging perceptions and ideas too, getting people to explain themselves and demand evidence. And I thought that was really cool that Shannon prompted that last time. She's like, I'd like to see more of that. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I gotta be honest, I have no background in debate structure, arguing a side. I'm so damn agreeable that I'm just I think that's a valid point.
I mean, I'm very agreeable, but I'm good at playing devil's advocate. So is Dakota. That's why I like sometimes having conversations with Dakota. But I did take, it was called Legal Eagles, because we were the Eagles in my high school. And it was a class on law. And then we would we had to do a couple of debates and then do our own, entire trial. It was kind of crazy.
A mock trial?
Yeah.
Did you have a judge and did you have to bring a briefcase?
I hated it, honestly.
Wow. Why'd you hate it?
I just didn't want to do it in that period of my life. I don't know why I signed up for that class.
Really?
I just wasn't, that wasn't my vibe at that time, but I was
What would you have wanted to do instead if you had the option?
I should have just taken philosophy or something like that. Something that just massaged my brain a little bit more.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, though, the whole idea of learning the skill set, doing a mock scenario, and actually playing out a skit or a scenario, and actually having that experience where you have to present your ideas, you have to debate them, and you have to choose a side. You can't be neutral like the Swiss. You have to be pro, con, for or against, and I thought that was a really cool idea and suggestion to do it, but it seems like maybe pushing it back to episode 15 or something might seem more
thinking of a real topic that you find that in a room you're pretty split, you know what I mean, so that when people do show up, even if it's only 4 of us, if there's 3 people who agree with one and one person who agrees with the other, we'll just be all right, you go on that side, and figure it out, and I wouldn't even mind being the person that's kind of in the middle about it. But I think it would be nice to pick a structured, non-offensive, but still pretty heavy debate topic.
I agree.
Not something that would cause tension in the crew.
But it'd be fun to choose something that's a modern day example that could really get us interested.
Yeah, chivalry.
Oh, okay. Lay it on me. Chivalry. I don't know how to
SHIVA. Yeah.
Boom. Next topic. like that. Brainstorming only a few minutes in. I love it.
Yeah, because it's an interesting topic, and I almost could relate a little bit to like sex in the future, because like a lot of people would say that chivalry's dying because we're so pro-feminism, but then at the same time, like, we also want to expect like the person in the male role to do certain things, and it's like, where is that going to go? Where does chivalry lie in the future?
And chivalry, to me, I'm like thinking in my head, I'm thinking of like the gentleman, the holding the door, the being like, in old days.
Throwing your coat down on the pedal. So dumb. Why would you do that? You just ruined your coat, man. Why didn't you just walk around the puddle?
But being like...
When did you ever get in a situation where you couldn't walk 3 feet to the right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is it like a blizzard or a rain? It's a tsunami? There's just so much water you have to throw it down. It seems to me it's like a gentleman being kind, exceptionally kind to like their partner or their person they're interested in or wooing in. And that's the current idea, right? Like chivalry's dead, or it's kind of been that way. That'd be an interesting topic to unpack.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, when this topic came up, I was like super excited for it, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much to approach and think about. I'd just love to have a conversation about this in general, but I really wasn't prepared for like a debate, because like I said, I'm just so damn agreeable. I was really hoping for more like the prompter, the facilitator role, where I could just like sit back, but I feel like with this topic, there's so much to think about. Like the futurist in me is like really fascinated, like sex in the future. Like I started thinking, are we talking about just like intercourse, or are we talking about like reproduction and the role that serves,
or like just dating?
Yeah, dating, and Julia brought that up today, like the relationship aspects of it. And it seems like right now, you could argue at any point in history, there's always these cataclysmic changes or paradigm shifts or things that really set in motion other things that affect it in the future. And I honestly do think that we're living in a time right now where we're seeing a lot happen in a very short period of time. It's very interesting. It's very, very fascinating.
Look at all the like different apps that we can use.
Bumble, Tinder, all sorts of things. Facebook.
There are people, like, I know somebody who was like, yeah, like, you know, my friend used this app, and she found like her perfect husband, and I was like, what do you mean by her perfect husband? She's like Persian and a doctor, and I was like, what do you mean? She's like, no, she literally was able to like choose categories, like,
really,
of Persian descent, and has like a PhD, and I was just like,
wow,
holy shit. Like, I get like what you mean, but that's creepy.
Yeah, like specialization,
that's like
or tailoring what you want.
But that's the thing, is like, is that what that could be? Do you want to start with that? Like,
yeah, let's go there.
Like,
let's go wherever you want. This is all us tonight. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, like what technology is going to do, and like to it in general. Like, are we going to start seeing? We're going to start seeing more apps, more specialized like ways of finding partners. We're going to find that people aren't even having partners anymore, and that there are just enough sex toys probably to satisfy a person, for the scaredest person of like a relationship.
So you're saying almost kind of approaching that like maybe like fast food relationship, where you just go in and it's like, we bang, we have a few experiences, and then I never see you again. And people are just gonna search more and more for that, rather than these like authentic, long-lasting, impactful relationships.
I mean, you think about the way people are starting to like work so hard, and like all they can do is work, and then it's just going to keep breeding a society where we feel like we don't have time for anything. And all in all, that's the reason why everything has we've gotten to these points because of just the general way we wanted to grow, but also because we wanted things faster and we wanted them more efficiently, because we got busier and busier, because life got more expensive over time. And now I feel like people are probably just going to be working all the time. They're like, I don't have time to meet anybody, or I don't have time to, I want a kid, but I don't have time to even have a husband. You know what I mean? Or nurture that relationship, or don't even have the safety in me as like a traumatized, like I feel like we're the most traumatized generations right now.
We got a lot of shit to unpack and work on.
And people are gonna just decide to not have relationships anymore and just only have sex.
But is it really gonna get to that point where people like they can just skip all the basics, the interpersonal communication, the interactions, the experiences, and just get right to that? I mean, there's still going to be this element of being human and being in the present and being there that I don't think can be skipped over that quickly. Or am I wrong?
Some people.
I don't know. I've been in a long-lasting committed relationship for 7 years, so I've skipped out on this transitional period. I have no fucking idea except from what my friends tell me and what I've gathered as an outsider. And it looks very, not weird, Allie, but it looks very confusing right now. That's what it looks like from an outsider looking in.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting thing that I thought of like a while back with my friend, like in a conversation, and just talking about the way people are not able to commit as much in our generations. Maybe, like, all in all, I'm not trying to say that, like, the generations before us had it all figured out, because, like, you know, things were ass backwards. People were having arranged marriages. People were marrying, like, 15-year-olds, like, when they were, like, 30. Like, things were not, you know, great. But people weren't allowed to just, like, log on to an app and find somebody else to, like, show them their boobs. You know what I mean? Like, everybody just has another option at this point, I feel like. And that's a really strange thing to see. Just people being really unsatisfied.
Even though they have instant gratification right at their fingertips.
Yeah.
Like, doodle-doo.
But that's not what's satisfying them. So that's why they keep doing it. So
that's where that fast food relationship idea comes in. It's like, you can have it, and it's good for a little bit, but just like fast food, it's not gonna
make you feel good.
Yeah. In fact, later you're gonna feel worse.
Yeah, you're gonna feel really bad. Things are gonna rot inside of you.
But if that's the just starting, I really love that we're starting in a present context because we're trying to understand really what's going on around us, and if that's the case, I really wonder, like, I don't know, what's going to happen to those things that I think are important, like those genuine experiences, those authentic, impactful relationships, and that, I would say that emotional and physical intimacy. Because if it's just the physical, that's all. You literally, it's like a sandwich. You cut out the rest of it, the physical intimacy. Is that just where we're going to go? The sex in the future is like, because I thought of it once again. Sex, intimacy, intercourse, that physicality aspect between 2, 4, I don't know, whatever, how many partners, whoever, I'm not judging. And then there's that aspect of reproduction, which it seems like, I mean, we live in the day and age where in our lifetime we're going to see, like, so many different types of birth control that are available, not only to women, but to men, where it's like, no, we have enough people on the planet, you don't need to use it anymore. Reproduction, don't worry about it. Sex, it's awesome, you can still do it. Those two things I just found myself really stuck on. Reproduction and intimacy. How are those going to evolve and change in the future? Really, that's where I found myself reflecting on a lot of this today. I don't know about you.
I was thinking before about people, like I talked about, like this traumatized society, like people really just starting to be more absorbed in work and themselves and like shutting off from connection. So I feel like we're going to see so many people like having kids as single parents from like either random people or from like sperm banks. Like I feel like there will probably just end up being a huge amount of people in this like these upcoming generations who just want to be by themselves.
So instead of actually having like a family dynamic, and then like I guess I feel like growing up, the story I was fed was a lot of parents were together and then they'd have the kid and then split. You're almost hypothesizing that it's going to be the opposite. Like the kid will be born and it's like, no, I was already doing my own thing.
yeah, I'm gonna keep doing my own thing. If I meet somebody that's cool, but I probably won't. That's like their logic at that point. That's what I would think we're gonna start seeing more.
And what do you think that'll mean for like those type of parents? Because that's a heavy responsibility.
It is,
right?
But I think that is just a new way of. I mean, think of all the different family dynamics that have been able to form as our society has gotten less traditional over the years. Like in the medieval times, you're not finding like, well, I don't know, you know how they have like the nuclear family, the extended family, and then like classifications for types of families that like have the cousins living with them and all that. Like that was like super common, and then all of a sudden it started to be more common to have like families joining. Like that kind of stuff really didn't happen so many years ago. So like you see all the ways that family dynamics can adapt and get more odd or solitude, like become more like singular, just like two parents and a kid, and then there's going to end up being like one parent and a kid on purpose, not just from. I mean, there already are so many parents that just choose to look at Baby Mama. And have you ever seen that movie?
Baby Mama?
With Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. Tina Fey's like rich and she just like wants to have a baby, and so she like gets a surrogate mom, and it's...
and hilarity ensues.
It's so, it's so funny.
Remind me again, I hope you don't mind me asking, but like I grew up with a divorced mom, so like my mom was with my father, had me and my brother, and then they divorced. Mm-hmm. And so never did my dad growing up, and just like lived with my mom the whole time. With you, I'm trying to remember when you presented on your genogram, but like did you do the nuclear family growing up, or the divorced parents, or were they already separated?
So my parents were together until I was like, I think like legally married still until I was 6, but my dad was probably like out of the house by 6 o'clock age 6, and like not in the house a lot before that, just due to like either his job or like going to rehab and stuff like that. So it always felt like my mom was kind of like, I didn't even feel like my mom was around a lot too, because she was just working so much or doing whatever. So I was like kind of raised by my grandparents, honestly.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're finding more and more cases of that nowadays, where the grandparents are having to step in and take care of kids.
Yeah. Primarily
related to like the opioid crisis and all that jazz, which is a whole another conversation in and of itself.
Yeah, that needs to be. Yeah. If you want to see me lose my mind.
I love that. That would be a very interesting one to unpack. Well, your hypothesis sounds valid. I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me in the future if that was the case, because it's really interesting, because what's required of us right now is this topic is sex. So we've kind of outlined that. At least I have. I think of physical intimacy. I think of the reproductive aspects of that. And I think to the future, so like 50 to 200 years down the line, which is so hard to think of. Mm-hmm. But when... Oh, hold on. I think my friend might be here. Hey, what's up? Okay, cool. I'll let you in. It's my friend Addison. Really good.
It sounded like the song "Sit Down." I think I love you by Buffalo Springfield.
This is my friend Addison. He's a very good friend. It should be a very interesting topic. I'm excited, but yeah. Oh man, I want to hold that thought. Hold it for me, Allie.
Yeah.
Hold it.
I kind of forgot what you were saying once they called. Hey there.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's been a while. I'm
Allie.
Addison.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You told me to remember his thought, and then I forgot his thought as soon as he said that.
It's tough enough to remember your own thoughts.
I know, right?
Somebody else's.
I was like, don't ask me to do that. Yeah, we have a great topic today, but I feel like we haven't even gotten nearly into actually the topic. We've talked about all side things so far. So we got here kind of perfect timing.
Great. Yeah. Sometimes it takes a bit to build up into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't get there, and that's okay too.
I know. There are so many times where we have just changed the course of the conversation just because certain topics sweep us away in one direction so heavily. I forgot your thought.
No, it's all good.
You said it.
No, it's all good. What I was basically doing was circling around to sex in the future, bringing it back full circle to what we meant by sex, and then kind of what we meant by future. We already started unpacking some stuff. What we might hypothesize the family structure or the nuclear family might be in the future. We've also talked about relationships and started kind of unpacking technology and how that will play a part. A lot of people today at work, when I mentioned this, talked about robots. There's gonna be robots, right? So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And that leads into things like VR experience. And
I know.
which is really fascinating. And we have a late edition, Addison Mayer. I love that. And this is pretty interesting, very random topic to unpack. And so, I'd love to delve more into that. How technology is going to come into play with VR stuff.
It reminds me a little bit, it ties into actually getting that physical affection as well as VR. I don't know why they remind me of each other, but there are also places, I think in Japan, where you can go and just cuddle with women.
Oh yeah, real women, right?
Yeah, real women. But I can only imagine that there's gonna end up being a VR version of all of that.
Oh yeah.
There probably already is.
And then you'll hold a blow up toy or something to fill the physical void, and then you'll put on a camera or some sort of VR set to show what's going on.
It's gonna happen with the most I can only see it now. Some of the most famous porn stars are gonna have their own VR app.
Oh, naturally.
Each have their own app.
Have you ever heard the hypothesis that most technological advances have been created or have originated from pornography, essentially? Technology has advanced because of the yearning for pornography. It's a very interesting hypothesis, but with VR equipment, that was one of the sparks that was oh yeah, we should invest in that. That'd be pretty cool. I think that there's validity to that. But I also think there's validity to the fact that VR might fill the void of people who are looking for experiences that don't have the time, the opportunity, or the space to do so. And I tried to bring up earlier that even those fast food relationships, there's still that yearning for authentic experiences, interpersonal communication, and that level of experience that comes from actually being with somebody and not just having sex. And I think that if people play their cards right, there's going to be a group of people that develop a VR app that gives you those moments, and you get to experience them, and you get to have them. And don't get me wrong, the porn will have the intimacy, the physical aspects will be over here. Big, brightly colored, and it will look fabulous. But I think, and I hope, that there will be room for that too, because that'll be interesting, right?
There will be a simulation where you put in a whole bunch of stuff about yourself and what you like in people, and then they just spit out a robot boyfriend or girlfriend for you.
Or it's a VR set right now that. Oh, sorry. No.
What if they text you all day?
They check in on you, how are you doing?
And it's just not
you.
even a real human, but you pay for this app to make you feel there's somebody out there for you.
It's a simulation. You're in a simulation, and they're there to give you that reciprocal, that dopamine fix, that kind of that yearning that people essentially have for that care, that kindness, that intimate experience. I don't know. I'm very interested to see if that market develops, because I think people will always be craving it. They'll want the fast food relationships. They'll want the Tinder apps. They'll be right over here. Be right waiting for them. But I think people will always yearn for that, and I think that would be interesting to see how that develops in the future. Because what if it's like you've never experienced heartbreak before, or like being together with somebody and having them be totally vulnerable and like defenseless and like guard down in front of you, and they're just being there with you. Like people will pay for the sex and the pornography, the Tinder apps, whatever they want. But I think that's gonna be something ridiculous in the future.
It's gonna be really hard for the kids that grew up. I mean, like we're at least, actually, how much older are you than me?
I'm like 30, and you're 20.
I'm 22.
22.
Okay, so
a little far.
Yeah, but I'm so thankful that I was just born at that cusp, because like everybody's just born with this insane technology now, and they're genuinely different for it. Like I wish that I could look at a younger person majority of the time and not see the differences in the way that we behave, just because of the circumstances that they've been given in like this really advanced world. They don't have as many social skills or capabilities or fluidity, I believe, as any of the generations previous.
And if they're lacking it, they're gonna need it. And I feel like there's gonna be someone there to be like, no, we'll train you here. VR headset experiences,
or it's just like
perception.
I mean, we're just gonna start accepting it more and more.
I agree. Yeah, we've been kind of jumping all over the place, Addison. This has been a really fun topic to just kind of jump into. It initially started off as a debate, but like with us here, we just kind of approached it how we normally do, which is we just
came
in
ready. Argue with you.
Yeah, we were ready to come and talk, and it was
That's
too
okay.
damn agreeable.
I can argue with you, Gabe.
No, I think we're gonna save episode 15 or possibly 16 for our debate. But right now, basically just jumping into sex in the future, which has been pretty fun and engaging so far. Very surprising.
I'm just listening, feeling it out. Wait, I have a few ideas cooking already, but
Let them cook, simmer. I would suggest stirring them every so often. Yeah, you know what's so funny is like trying to think even like 30, 40 years out, like so much is gonna happen in the next even like 20 or 40 years where like, I don't know, like even sitting here hypothesizing, I have a hard time actually imagining how this topic in particular is going to evolve, because part of me thinks it's just such a confusing time with so much going on, and I wonder, is that confusion going to lessen, or is it going to be more, we're going to see more of the empowering of the individual, where it's going to be like, hey, like sex, you do whatever you want, like this is the future. You want a baby, you can have a baby. You don't need a baby, but 6 billion plus people on the planet, you can only support that much, but you can do whatever you want. Full freedom, creativity, liberty. Like, and I feel like we're starting to see more of that, but I don't know. Part of me is like skeptical and hesitant and not understanding of a lot of what's going on, and it seems to me, in all honesty, like a lot of kind of confusion currently, but I guess that would make sense because there's so much long, deeply historical repression of sex. I'm like coming at it from a Foucault angle, which is like, we're looking back at the Victorian roots where it's like, no, you have to have intimacy in the room, alone, in the dark, and you can't enjoy it. Remember that. You can't enjoy it. It's like, oh my God, I'd be so angry and so repressed.
Yeah.
And so we have all this historical buildup of just like not being able to be open and expressive and really enjoy sex because it's awesome. And I think we're seeing the ramifications of that now, which is like the 60s generation, the love movement, like let's do drugs and be together. And since then, who knows what the fuck has happened, but it's led to a lot of interesting conversations, experiences, and what we have now, which is different and unique and new types of relationships. Same thing with genders. It seems like we've done that. And then with like sex in general, I mean, sex is a legitimate topic studied in academia that has theories and methodologies and research and grant money, and that's really interesting, and I think that's really cool. But still, it seems so relatively new. Part of me thinks it's a little funny. Part of me thinks it's very interesting, and another part of me thinks that, like, man, I can't wait to see what this looks like in like 20 years. You know? How will the conversation have changed? So, yeah.
It's weird to just, I guess, see something that's supposed to be really primal turn into kind of just like a puzzle piece in like the human existence. Like, I don't know, the one thing I compare it to is like when we talked about like DMT being in a vape pen.
Yeah.
And it being like, is this that sick? Like, is it kind of disrespectful? I think so.
It's right here, battery powered. I'm going in.
You know, like, so I think that's like another, it's just weird, I guess, I don't think that there's going to be a huge boundary on it because of the ways that sex has already been portrayed so much. Just like,
in the future, you don't think there's going to be so many boundaries?
well, there are going to be boundaries, but it's going to be like,
maybe a little bit more direct and more authentic, where it's like, hey.
I don't think it's going to be productive boundaries.
What do you mean?
I don't know how to explain what I mean, honestly. I wish I did.
Productive boundaries.
I think they're going to still be repressive in certain ways, or just like stagnant, rather, not repressive.
It wouldn't surprise me considering how long historically people have been told to do this one thing a certain way, and you can't enjoy it. That's always the caveat. Yeah. You can't enjoy it. Don't think about it. And it's like, oh my god, nowadays I can literally just be like, and it's like right there.
Let's go.
Yeah. Yes, please. Meet at my place. Green pizza.
It's strange.
It's strange, but it's like an alright strange. And once again, I'm just so biased as an outsider looking in. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this? But once again, like, I'm trying to think of, because this topic's in the future, it's really requiring, kind of like I just did with that, like that Treasure Island kind of like sea scope, you know. It requires this level of hypothesizing, not only from our own experiences, but what we've studied and what we've learned. Being able to jump ahead in the future and say, okay, so this is what we understand has happened now. This is what we understand and have gathered has happened in the past. So with that combined, we're going to try and hypothesize in the future how this story might unpack or evolve. And going back to one of the tour guides who said this in South Africa, I have very low expectations of the future. I think the repression will continue. People will be continually force-fed a narrative, whether a fast food type relationship where it's like, take what you want, leave the rest, don't care about growing or healing or opening up emotionally as a human. But I do have high hopes, though, especially with sex and physical intimacy, where, I don't know, I have high hopes that in the future people will continue to be open to the experience and want to be creative and express themselves freely, because there's something very special about that I think we have known about for so long but forgotten. And so that is my high hopes in regards to this topic, is that in the future, whether it be 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, that there will be people fighting for that. It's like, yeah, sex is pretty awesome. Why the hell do we keep debating and fighting about this so much? Just be safe. Have fun. And direct communication is always key, but
yeah, I don't think that's going to be, I don't think openness is going to necessarily even be the problem in the future.
What do you think is going to be the problem, Allie? Unpack it.
I think at a certain point, with the way that we've seen other things like agriculture, technology, like all these other things adapt, like sex is such a huge subject, and I think that we're just going to continue to like abuse it just like we've abused everything else.
Really?
I see like a fiery black hole in the future.
Just deplete it?
I think it's going to be good.
So you have kind of like a darker potential conclusion.
Yeah, I think it's something that's going to get really dark. It has the potential to get very dark. I mean, you see, like in the 1950s, you used to go out to get a burger and a shake.
Okay.
And
Old school America.
In the brain of the male, most likely, they were taking this girl home, and if they were lucky, getting like a kiss on the cheek. Now it's like, yeah, I'm going to take this girl to a movie, and then we're going to fuck. And it's like, why do you think that that's what's going to happen? Why do you think that you deserve an award, or vice versa, the girl giving it to another girl, or whatever the relationship dynamic is? Like, you start seeing that we just expect this gratification just for, like, some period of time spent with the person. And, like, that level of intimacy and needing affection has gone down. Or at least, I don't think it's gone down. I think people just dissociate from the way they feel about their daily lives. But
it is a troubling reality where there are these sort of societal norms or expectations or, like, certain rhetoric that people, like, feed to themselves where if you do this, therefore this happens. And it seems like, once again, with these apps, Tinder, Bumble, I don't know, the rest of them that are going on, there's a lot of opportunity for miscommunication and misunderstanding because it's so relatively new. You know, just because somebody agrees to hang out with you doesn't mean shit. Mm-hmm. If they don't tell you what's going on, it's just a meeting of two people, but one party might have a misunderstanding than the other party. And societal norms or ideas or expectations have been skewed because of these things.
For sure.
Created a very interesting dichotomy, it seems like.
I like everything you all said is good, and I'm trying to like find a place to put in, like get my foot in the door, and not really, but.
I mean, we don't even need to you don't need to branch off of what we...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, this is such a future, man.
I'm just going to start talking because I need to I just need to get the brain focused because it's jumping around so much. But for what I'm hearing is thinking about sex in the future, and you talked to like a black hole. And I also see that black hole, and I see... because it's so primal, because it's such a deep-seated thing for us, we're going to end up taking it to the max. And technology is going to allow us to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're going to just go for it. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. The only I see two ways that we would be aware of that and not bring it to a point of like total unhealthiness. I don't know exactly what that black hole actually looks like, or what that, if you can call it unhealthy even, but I see in the past, we've seen like religious structures contain that and hold on to that and push away that exploration fully. And the other thing that I think that would put boundaries around it, or at least let it develop in a productive way, is being conscious of it, you know, and being aware of what's going on. And what, to me, it seems like is happening is because things are accelerating so quickly. It's like, 20 years ago, we have the internet. 10 years ago, we have cell phones. 5 years ago, we have dating apps. 2 years ago, we have Tinder. This year we have VR, and it's like, and we just can't respond in a way that requires time for us to, as a collective, put our conscious thought towards these things. And I am worried that we won't, as a species, be aware enough of what's going on before we cross some sort of threshold.
Yeah. We're not going to wait for the collectiveness.
No, it's too boring. We don't want that. Like we're just not built for that.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the future, we're going to end up, and I think it's already happening too. Okay, I'm going to shelf that for a moment and return to something you said, Gabe, which was, what was it? It was, I had it.
All over the place. It's all good. Go with it. Feel it and go with it.
It had something to do with communication and confusion. There is confusion in this world right now as regarding sexuality. And I wouldn't even say it's confusion as like an openness. Like people are exploratory nowadays, which I think is healthy. I actually think is good. Like we are being more accepting. We're pushing out those thresholds and we're opening it up. But by God, it's uncomfortable. And I speak for myself firsthand. And I also maybe speak for some others from their experiences and just from a general societal feel. It is uncomfortable to have to face and to explore. It's uncomfortable to go into a jungle without a path with only a machete, right? And I feel like that's what we're doing with sexuality. But what that signifies is if you're uncomfortable, you're growing. You can't be in a safe feeling place and also grow. It's just a personal belief of mine, but I think that you have to push those boundaries. You have to be uncomfortable to grow. And I think we are as a society doing that, but I think the second piece of it, and taking that thing back off the shelf now, is we have to be conscious of it. Because if you're in the jungle, you could find some really cool flowers, you could find some really cool animals and species and cures to cancer and whatever else is out there. But you can also find like fucking tigers, alligators, tribes of people that want to
poison
eat
flowers.
You. And I do think that's out there in the sexual world. I think that there is things to be cautious of. And I do think we're starting to bump up against that as we explore. We're finding these things that can be dangerous. But we also are finding some beautiful things. And we just have to be aware of it. All right, I got it out.
I like it.
Heck yeah.
Brought it full circle. I appreciate that, Addison. Yeah, because this is a very interesting topic because it's happening in our own time. Like it's like back in the day, people would have been like, "What's it going to be like sex in the future in like 2018?" And then here we are having that conversation in 2018 about what it's going to be like in 2040 and 2050.
I'd love to bring like different relationship style, like, you know, that forever it's just been man and woman date and you're not allowed to see anybody else. Mm-hmm. There are obviously other relationship structures that exist now, like polyamory being the most common one. Mm-hmm. And
what other ones though? I'd love to unpack that.
You know, I would love to like just, if you guys want to start like talking about.
I have an iPad here if you want to use that instead of using your phone in case you don't want to use data. You can just look stuff up. I was going to say, I'd actually like to look that up because I'm fascinated in relationship type structures because I have always thought that it's very interesting to have a partner and you think, okay, this person has to fulfill A, B, C, and D. Okay, cool, I'm looking for these. They do this kind of good and that one pretty good. That one could be better. But when people think of relationship structures, there's always the physical intimacy. Okay, in polyamory, it's like sleeping with 4 people and you're with one person. Okay, and like other ones, it's this and that. But why does it always have to be physical? Sex is always the main component of that. But why in relationship structures is there not other aspects of your relationship covered into different people or different groups? I don't know. I just feel like that's worth noting. And I feel like
complicated. It's my first response.
That's what my professor used to say about stuff like this. It's complicated, but I guarantee we're not the only ones to ask.
No, I mean
these questions.
Actually having people fulfill different needs for you is complicated.
Well, but part of me as a social scientist thinks, no, it's not. You can actually break that down structurally. I mean, look at people like Vladimir.
Can I draw something really quickly?
You can,
to
and you
illustrate
will.
my thoughts.
I'll bring up Vladimir Prop as we look that up because he's a cool guy.
So here's my thought with it, Gabe. And not to say that it's not impossible. It's totally doable, but it is going to require a whole cultural shift. So here's an individual. And an individual needs need A, B, and C. We'll keep it to 3. Like sex, food
and shelter,
affection. Well, this is from another person. Okay. So like sex, affection, and like understanding. And you get understanding from this person, sex from this person, and affection from this person, or like reaffirming or whatever. and this is like just person X, then these 3 people are also going to need their needs met. And then they're going to branch out, and then all of a sudden we're having, like, very quickly a network is going to start forming where I just see more and more and more branching out, whereas the other model, the classic model, is this person is connected to that person and they're separate from this person from that person. And it's easier to look at. But this is not impossible.
That's much easier to manage.
So much easier to manage.
So much easier to manage.
In theory, I mean, I guess, I don't know, but like this would require a huge cultural shift. It would require a huge, and I don't know, honestly, for me personally, I'm not sure we're biologically built for this. And I know people would actually make the opposite argument using biology to say, actually, we are built for this. But I'm not sure. I'm not convinced yet. And I could only, I have to speak from myself only. This scares me. If I had to go into this right now with my current programming, this would scare the living shit out of me, because it's like, where is this person going with that person? Where is that person going with that? Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do that? Why is this person branching away from me now? It's just it feels very unstable, and I like stability. And this would rock my boat.
It seems to me like mathematical equation-wise, this is much simpler to equate than this, which has many different components and variables and aspects to it. Much harder to mitigate in the mind.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it. And, I think polyamory is the idea of you have, as a human being, a certain amount of love and a certain amount of affection, a certain amount of sexuality that should be expressed. It really should. It should not be contained. And polyamory is a possible solution to, like, hey, like, I want to give you this, and I can be more compatible with you with this, and like such and such. For monogamy or whatever the other structure that's like this, I think, to me, there are going to be gaps, right? And you can't possibly expect one person to fill everything.
No, that's super ridiculous to think so.
And but something about recognizing those gaps, seeing that this person will not fulfill you, yet you're still willing to be with them, and you're still willing to put in work, maybe not to patch it, maybe not even ever to fix it, but to recognize it and acknowledge it and give that gap the same amount of love and attention as you would give to another person, not in an unhealthy way, but just as a way to see it as something that, I don't know exactly, I need to fully form my thought on that, but there's something of value here to me that I haven't quite fully developed, and it comes up every time the monogamy polyamorous argument comes up in my mind. So I'll stop talking for a moment.
No, I like that.
I'm a little charged.
No, I like that. Bring that.
I
Bring
love
that to the table. Yeah.
I love
Light
this
that
conversation because it's definitely like, I mean, I've only had one serious relationship in my entire life, and it was like for almost 4 years, and from that literally only one circumstance, I've been like, what can I do? Because I love love, and I don't want to, like, I'm just such a hopeless romantic, and I'm like, how can I acquire love and then, like, make it last? And so that's kind of just all that's been going through my brain ever since I left that relationship years ago. Not literally all that's gone through, but, like, when it comes to relationship, I'm like, what can I do for myself, and what is it going to be like for the rest of my life, and how can I make it easier? And I definitely don't know if it would make it easier, polyamory, but sometimes certain forms of it make me feel like it would be more sustainable in some ways, because of at least the way certain at least the way I'm structured, is like after a while, I feel like I'm going to have some form of resentment for that person, for the gaps and for the amount of misconnections I might feel. Because I think of Bluebird as the biggest example. Like I could think about just like only being allowed to have one friend. You know what I mean? At Bluebird. And like it blows my mind. Like I want to be friends with all 40 of you. And that's such a silly, like friendship and intimate relationship, so different. But like then there's also the idea is like, is it bad for when you want to have sex to like look at one of your closest friends that you have a really, really good relationship with and let them give you pleasure? And then are you able to move on from that? Some people aren't. Some people are. And is that so bad? Because then in a way it's like you're sharing your love and desire to feel good with somebody that you trust. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to commit anything to that person either. I don't know. I mean, all the time I'm like, I think sex is like a lot. Although I like it, it's a lot for me. So the idea of having multiple sexual partners honestly just turns me off. But having multiple partners doesn't. You know?
Expand on that, because I like where you're going with that.
But I think that sex is a lot for the body, and to give that physical like exchange to multiple people would be draining for me.
Yeah.
But the emotional isn't as draining. But then there's also this structure in our society where it's like you can't get too close to that person. That looks weird. And it's like, what about relationships that are like kind of poly, but it's like, okay, you're my primary partner, but like I want to be able to get intimate with all these other people. And by intimate, I don't necessarily mean like sexual, just like intimate relationship. It's it's constantly working in my brain.
I want to riff with that for a moment because I really like where your head's at, and I kind of want to see if I can unpack it my way too, because I like where your head's at, because it seems like, yes, multiple sexual partners, man, that's like a lot of sharing of your time, your energy, your whole spirit is like engaged in that. It can be a little taxing, a little tolling, and my God, a little too much. But there's this other aspect which I've seen you tap into, where there's the emotional aspect, where I like this void spot that Addison was bringing up here, where like,
oh, can I try something?
Yeah, do it.
What about this?
Riff with it. Oh, I brought
you
beer.
know.
Cup. Beer. I have another beer over there.
Or like, there are allowed to be more. But what about, or like, them meeting in a way?
Yeah. So, something that stood out to me that you said, thank you, dude. Wow, that's really big beer.
I know, when I'm done with this one, I'll probably like
okay, please do.
But, don't worry about it. What'd you draw, Ollie?
Yeah.
So is that the square? Listen to this. What's going on with the square?
These are the gaps, but they're being filled by another little person.
Interesting. Would you explain to me what's going on in your head when you see that?
Because, you know, these other people are going to exist in their lives too, but like, I don't know, I see poly relationships where like, you know, everybody's like hanging out and then you're like friends, and then there's also, I feel like it'd be really fair to be like, I think you're great, but like I just don't have the capacity to get to know the people in your life. So then it's really only that one person being introduced into your life or into your relationship. Think about like a long distance kind of thing. Like if you start a relationship with somebody in Montana, you're not really worried about like all their partners because you're never really going to see them. You're just going to have that exchange with that person. I don't know. That's just kind of the way I'm thinking of it, even though I guess it could be naive to say that, you know, their other partners aren't going to get involved or their friend, like their relationships wouldn't intertwine with yours. But I don't know. I try to think of the different structures of poly. How do you guys feel about like this like hierarchical like structure of poly, like having a primary partner and then having a secondary?
I don't really know much about it except from what I've learned from pop culture and like taking women's sexuality, which even then they literally give you a very basic understanding of here's monogamy. Oh, check this out, 1 and 1. Oh my gosh, check this out, 1 and 1. This is super easy. And then polyamorous. Well, we're going to talk about this for a moment. We don't really know much about it. It's really interesting, and there's a lot going on there. So on to the next topic. I don't know much about it. I don't know much about it. I'm biased. I don't know much about it.
I could speak to it in my limited experience a bit. So I have had only a handful of serious relationships. If I had to count, I'd say 3. One really big one. And after the really big one ended, I was totally lost. I was like really uncertain about what I was doing in the relationship aspect of life. And so I was just out there. I was just out there meeting as many people as I could, saying hello to as many people as I can. And I ended up running into a woman who was in a polyamorous relationship. And she was very frank, and like all the parts that need to be there were there, as far as like great communication, very open, very no like secrets or anything. And she let me know that she was in a loving long-term relationship, and that she and her partner had worked this thing out, and that she only wanted to get to know me for the physical side of things. And I was in a place where I was like pretty just lost. So I was like, sure, whatever. And it only took one night for me to be like, this is not for me. Like, there is nothing here but like physical relationship. And I hadn't fully developed my ideas about polyamory or anything like that. I was exploring, and that caused me to feel like I was being used, even though that wasn't the case. It was very much that she had been very explicit about all these things. And, but nonetheless, because of my own underdevelopments, my own, just like lack of defining what it means to me, it ended up making me feel like I was used. And so I feel like polyamory is such a two-way street. Like, it has to be, because otherwise you're going to end up hurting somebody.
Yeah.
And so that hierarchical thing to me is, like if you are there just to be the physical aspect of a relationship, you need to know that and be okay with that. If you are going to be just the emotional support of a relationship, you need to know that and be okay with that. And I think that's really challenging for people because it's so entwined. Like, for me, I don't know if I'd ever be able to do it, because emotion and being physical with somebody are so intertwined. I can't really separate them. And my experiences have proved that to me, that like they're like one and the same. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on that prompt.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of people that are in polyamorous relationships, and I find that I look at them and I have a lot of respect, and it's pretty beautiful to watch a lot of the time, but then sometimes it's just so frustrating because you see boundaries being set, and then like either immediately being broken sometimes, or like boundaries being set and then like a million more needing to be set every single time something comes up. And it's like you couldn't predict that you might not feel safe with this kind of thing. Like, I don't know, I guess that sounds naive because you want to let people deal with things as they show up, but it's pretty... What?
I was just going to say, doesn't it require a certain level of like courage, responsibility, and like direct and interpersonal communication, which you told? It says like new generations of kids aren't going to have They're not going to have the vocabulary or the means to be like, hey, instead of being like,
Yeah. And that's so true, and that's when you just find, like, people constantly deceiving, you know, and just a lot of betrayal, I feel. Or, I don't know, there are so many parts of an adult that need to be healed just from the trauma of being a now fully grown person.
I agree.
And, like, all of the stuff that you had to deal with, that the instability, I'll use that word even though I don't want to just coin, like, that term for polyamorous relationships, but because, like, somebody in a polyamorous relationship could be like, I think that one person being my partner is unstable. So, like, it's kind of just subjective, but that kind of structure might not nurture those parts of a person that really need to be helped out. Once you get to an adult age, I feel like it's way easier to get lonely and down on yourself because you realize that people aren't really, like, you're not that special. You're just, like, kind of this, like, peg, like, in the game of life. But when you're a kid, the world is so small and you're just, like, kind of still learning. And I could see it being kind of damaging to, like, not feel wanted or not feel good enough for a person. But, like, that's, I don't know. It's all subjective, I guess, based on what people's needs and wants are.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it's damaging. Fuck. I've had people recently, when I say recently, I mean within a month, my latest relationship ended because she didn't want me. And I'm still, like, figuring that shit out. I think I mean, you can hear it in my tone of voice right now. It's like, I feel like I'm worth it. I feel like I know myself pretty well and that I love and respect myself. And I know that I need to be kind to myself. Yet I wake up some mornings and I'm just, like, instantly, like, my brain just goes to, like, they didn't want you, man. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I hear that voice, and I'm just like, that voice, who is that voice? Where is it? And I want to identify it, I want to pull it out, and I want to shine a bright light on it. And I know it's going to be like some, like, mucky, squirmy, like, creature, but it's also me, which is the kind of the fucked up part. But that damage, it's so hard. It's it's like that's why I think polyamory just requires such a level of acceptance among so many different people on such a deep level that it would be, I can only speak for myself again, it would be hard to pull off because I know that, like, it would just take this one person to be like, okay, this need's been fulfilled for me and I'm moving on. It would just bring up questions. And I don't think of myself too much as an insecure person. I know that I have insecurities, but, I don't think I'm reeling in them. But still, anybody that rejects you in any form is holding a mirror up to you, and just kind of naturally, I think, and you can't help but to ask yourself some questions. But yeah.
So polyamory is just like being in a fun house.
Is that, if you look that up quick, is that the only other
there's gotta be more.
skits?
I don't think it's being in a fun house. I think it just
well,
requires so much.
But what would be the category? Because I'm thinking, I don't want to create a duality with it because I think there's so much more going on here than just monogamous and polyamorous, which I feel like is a conversation in and of itself, but there must be other certain models or methodologies or approaches to being with people, groups of people, intimacy levels,
They're
emotional.
not named very well.
Really?
Or at least I'm not Google searching it maybe in the best way. Like the first, basically it said 7 different ones. First one is cheating, and I'm just like, really? That's one? You're fucking kidding me? And then
It's one.
polygamy, which is different because they also have polyamory listed.
Yeah, because that's like more religious affiliated, I think. Polygamy usually involves, I believe, one male with multiple wives. It's usually a religious
I
conversation.
don't think it requires love.
No, it has nothing to do with love whatsoever. It's
Yeah, I
really
think
just
that I just saw the
nature.
word like acquired. So like.
Yeah, you're a
I'm
Mormon.
good.
It's usually towards one specific gender, which is like, oh god, okay, get out of here with that
Yeah.
shit.
Open, I guess, is different.
What's
than-
open?
So
Is
open
that-
relationships are varied enough to be an umbrella term for consensually non-monogamous relationships based on a primary couple who are open to sexual contact with others.
So they're not swingers. They're just like, they're kind of like open, they're down, but they're like still together.
Yeah, the most common form of an open relationship is that of a married or long-term committed couple that takes on a third or sometimes fourth or fifth partner whose involvement and role in the relationship is always secondary. So that's important. Like, an open relationship means that you're always going to have that one person and that, like, nobody else is going to come before that one relationship.
Yeah, of course. Like, okay, I see that. That makes sense.
Swinging.
Yep. Oh, naturally. I would actually like to learn more about this because this is a pretty interesting, relevant one that, say, appeared probably like, it's been around for a long time, but I think it was only recently defined. Plus, like, I feel like since sexuality studies came up, like, I'm thinking like the 80s, like club culture, or like 60s culture, like swinging, like multiple partners or something, or like Burning Man culture. That's what I think of when I think of swingers. So like, even
The 60s are just like...
even the cruiser ride, man, like those people, when I got to know that group, it was like, they're part of Burning Man. Burning Man's heavily swinger oriented. Like, I never.
What's the difference between swingers
I was
and
never familiar with that before. I didn't understand anything about it, and once again, my bias with this sort of study, I feel like I have a preconceptual notion in my head, and there's an actual definition or an actual structure to it that I'm just like totally oblivious of, you know?
Do you want me to read what it says about swinging?
I'm curious about the difference between swinging and an open relationship.
Okay. Most broadly, swinging involves committed couples consensually exchanging partners specifically for sexual purposes. It's tremendously diverse, ranging from brief interactions between or among strangers at sex parties or clubs to groups of friends who've known each other for years.
So it's committed couples basically being like, I like your girlfriend, I'd like to sleep with her. Would you like to sleep with my wife?
Yeah. Or like friends in a group, just like...
Man,
intertwining.
as somebody who's been in like 3 pretty long committed relationships, that would take a lot of trust and communication and like voyeurism. There you are. It's like, yeah, like I'd like my wife to sleep with you, like, or girlfriend. It's like, wow, whew.
Yeah, and then there's
That'd be a
monogamish.
What is monogamish?
Monogamish relationships are those in which a couple is primarily monogamous but allows varying degrees of sexual contact with others.
Okay.
So I guess it's like just like a
you're
tight poly person. You know what I mean? Like,
it sounds to me like that's the couple that's like together for 90% of the year, and then there's a month where they just like let loose, you know? They're just like, okay, I'll see you in a month. I trust that you'll be back. Go have fun. And then they come back together.
And then it's like, hey, what'd you do? It doesn't really matter.
No, you don't. You don't talk about it.
some allow only one-night stands or specific kinds of sexual activity. Others have time or location limitations. So very interesting that that's like
I've never heard of that before. That's pretty
Monogamish.
Monogamish.
And then
Trending.
it goes to polyamory or polyfidelity.
Oh, polyfidelity. What do we got, Allie?
A relationship style that allows people to openly conduct multiple sexual and or romantic relationships simultaneously, ideally with the knowledge and consent of all involved in or affected by the relationships.
I feel like that ideally is like, if it's not being explicit to all that are involved, then it's not polyamorous.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, so you said something about it needing to take like all of this love and acceptance, and like the one like kind of phrase that's like stuck in my head, like coming from friends telling me about what they've realized from accepting that that's who they are, like a polyamorous person, is that like love is abundant, and they don't want to deny that love is abundant. And it's like a really, like, it's such a sweet sentiment, like, and I really love it. I do. So like that's the reason why I have like this adoration for it. But even with knowing that love is abundant in my heart, I'm like,
Isn't there something
so
to say
to think
about, I think we as human beings have so much love. I think we are like an embodiment of love, where like the universe really has collectively loved itself into us being manifested. That's a different story, but we have all of this in us, and I do think that we need to let it out. Mm-hmm. And if we don't let it out, God help us. But I think there's something to be said about taking that love towards another person, and that brings me back to my undeveloped monogamy argument, where there's something to it, and I don't know what it is, and I think I've scratched tradition and like religion off, because I've wrestled with this for a while, that there's something to loving and just channeling that love to another, and then they are doing the same to you. And it's never ever gonna be like just like this, right? Like this main channel is what I'm talking to, but you know, every person is going to branch off at every interaction they have with every other person, right? It's like, this is me talking to a kid that I've never met. This is me talking to my mom. This is my partner talking to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is me petting a dog. But there's a main channel here where something is there. And I have yet to figure it out, but I hear you with that we have so much love. And I think polyamory circumvents the problem that sometimes this love hits a barrier between these two people, right? And that spills out, and it just gets so ugly. And it's really unfortunate. And I truly believe love and hate are one and the same. And I think this is where that transition happens, where it's like that love is undirected, and then you start to hate that person because you can't connect. But with polyamory, like these channels, your love is spread out more, and it's more fluid, and you can branch out, but it's never quite as intense as it potentially could be. Now, if you're in a relationship, a monogamous relationship that has too many barriers, then by all means, you shouldn't be in that relationship. It's not healthy, but yeah, that's the difference that I think about.
Do you think that a person that openly allows themselves to pursue all of these different relationships can't somehow conjure up the energy to form a connection that's just as strong as just a pair might have with each relationship that they're developing, because of the fact that they might have put that self-work in and might choose people that really do deserve that love, and so it is able to flow very well?
That's a really good question.
Because I look at one of my close friends at work, and I think she's killing it. You know what I mean? I don't know how the hell she's doing it, but I think that her relationships are very strong and very deep and meaningful, and more deep and meaningful than majority that I've had with intimate partners. You know?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I want to ask this person some questions. Just like, teach me.
She's an angel.
But no, I mean, yeah, I guess I haven't entertained the thought that, you know, these connections can be just as deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
There's something about conservation of energy that's holding me back. I'm kind of scientifically minded, and so
I mean, that's like me too. Like, I cannot, like, even with, I was just talking about how I love my coworkers so much. Even like the other night, I like needed to go home at like 9:30.
yeah.
I can't sometimes.
Would you say this friend of yours is extroverted or introverted?
Very introverted.
Interesting.
She's like one of the most soft-spoken people.
Very interesting.
She's very gentle.
Yeah, I mean, some days I don't have the energy. Even when I was in a very monogamous relationship, that in the best of times, there were days that I was just like, look, like, I need some space by myself. But I don't know if that has to play into anything, into the strength of your bonds or not.
I think that what's so rad is that since she has such an open sense of communication, she does seem to be the type of person that has that open communication. Like, she shows me her planner, and I see that she marks off time for herself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting. It's very interesting. She has it, like, all boiled down to, like, I mean, she doesn't feel that way at all, though. She doesn't feel like she's organized or like she has anything figured out. But I've definitely looked up to her in the way that she's able to show up in relationship, in friendship too. You know, It's interesting, and then to see the way some people can't show up in relationship or intimate relationship, like friendship or intimate relationship.
Well, you have to remember too, I mean, like, we don't teach in school to be authentic. We don't teach how to cultivate interpersonal communication skills. We don't allow people to be like, hey, like, we're gonna just allow you to be with somebody right now, in the space, in the environment, in the mindset you're in right now. Like, figure that out on your own. Sorry, we have, you know, we're going to teach you writing, we're going to teach you math, we're going to teach you science. And I love those skills, don't get me wrong, I love them, but really, at the end of the day, I'm empathetic.
Think about teaching this, though. I'm going through right now my master's in education and thinking about sitting with a group of fourth graders and teaching them about, this isn't a complex concept. They would get the idea of monogamy versus polyamory.
Very simple, duality.
But my God, would I get some emails from parents? Like, my God, would I be fired so quickly? It's like...
son and daughter are questioning everything. What the hell did you do to them?
We're just not...
like some kid raises her hand in class. Is that why my dad keeps seeing Mrs. Roberta on Tuesdays?
It would be just total shit. Oh my God, we would be hosed. And you can't approach it. We're not there as a society yet. I think we can be if we want. I think we're on the road, but I don't think we're there yet.
I think that even if there were just more polyamorous relationships, that people's monogamous relationships would just start inherently doing better, just because of this more open environment, even being like the energy being put into the world.
Do you think that in the future, thinking of the future, it'll be a lot like how right now I think we're undergoing a revolution in like gender and like accepting that. So like, you know, whoever you like, gender is becoming so gray and neutral.
The easiest way to explain it is LGBTQ is now LGBTQA something.
Yeah, like PIA.
There's like 4 new ones since we've been born, so like it just keeps growing.
Hey, I'm I'm all for all of that. And I think
too.
the general consensus is moving, the needle is moving slowly towards acceptance.
Yeah, man, radical inclusion, we're moving there.
And so my question is this going to be the next thing? Are people going to identify themselves as like, I'm monogamous, so like I'm polyamorous? And I think people are starting to talk about that a little bit, but is it going to be like on the next dating site, like this is how I am?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it will.
I mean, poly people are using Tinder, or like people in open relationships are using Tinder and Bumble to like find people to interact with too.
it's true.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been that way
The
previously.
couple is looking for a third. That's always...
If there was just an option for them. I'm sure there is an app at this point for like people looking to join, or vice versa.
It seems like in the future it's going to need a much more requirement of the participant to be informed, to be a really good, fluent communicator, and to be really engaged in the process. Because if you're not doing all three of those, you're like... There's a lot of chance, it seems like, for confusion, miscommunication, and like misunderstanding, and like nobody wants to get hurt. Everybody's here to just have a fun time, enjoy the journey, and learn some things along the way. It's pretty interesting about all this.
People are going to end up getting hurt.
Yeah, I know, that's part of the human journey, but the whole goal is that we learn from
I think
it.
you need to. I don't know, I kind of had a weird thought today. Maybe not today, but recently, about accepting that you will hurt somebody and somebody will hurt you. And you can't avoid that. That is a part of life. And what you need to do with that then is like ask yourself, like, okay, what do I learn and how do I make it so that this doesn't happen again? Or how do I make it so that I can change everything in my power to not have this happen again?
Yeah, that's a heavy burden of somebody who studies philosophy. You try to minimize the casualties to a point, but also within the understanding of the framework that even when you take into calculation everything that could do wrong, you're still left with a variable that you will not be able to understand, calculate, or put into the equation that is a byproduct of being human, and that you will, no matter how hard you try, you will hurt somebody. Somebody will hurt you. This is part of the journey. This is an experience that you will take with you, and hopefully you will learn from it. But by golly, is that heavy, and that is a burden, and that is a weight of responsibility that you will have to face.
It's interesting too for me because like in the literally one example I have in my life, I for a while had a lot of self-righteousness with my course of actions, and then after a while I started thinking about the way things worked, and I started having this guilt, but it was more so just like because I knew that wasn't the agreement that we had, but it was more so just because there was a box on our relationship structure. Whereas like if maybe we were in like a more open relationship, I wouldn't have felt like I needed to leave this relationship and then connect with another person pretty closely after that relationship ending. But why is that even bad? Like, because if you look at this relationship structure, I should have never had to break anything off with another person. So it's funny to see the way, like, yeah, we're going to hurt people and people are going to hurt us, but, like, are we making them hurt us? And are they making us hurt them? Vice versa. Like, however that works.
Yeah.
Just because of the...
Is it a form of, like, hurting ourselves? In a way? Like, kind of seems like it. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, yeah, we make these decisions and we go through these things and they might make us uncomfortable, but then we're like, why did that happen? Oh, it's because of the way that was formulated entirely. Not because I chose, not because I avidly chose to make that decision. It's because my hand was, like, kind of forced in that direction because I wanted to, I don't know, do A, B, or C. I feel like I always... And that's the thing, is cheating is such a huge huge topic in our day and age, and it's definitely probably, like, I mean, I've just never been cheated on, so I don't want to talk for anybody that has been. But it just seems like it's like the worst thing that you could possibly do in a relationship, and it's like, it seems a little childish at this point.
Yeah, you look at historically and you're like, okay, like there is some things like human relationships and development have never been very smooth. Mm-hmm. We've never really talked about it, studied it, or really unpacked it, and therefore, I'm gonna break it. Toonami Society, episode 10. Not a rule, but it's some sort of standard where I'm gonna admit something very close and honest with you. I have cheated before. That is a first. That is a level that I wouldn't thought that I have pushed, but I have done that, and like, that's heavy. Relationships are heavy. Being with another person is heavy, and we don't have really a structure to really talk about this or unpack it or really be like, hey, let's look at what kind of model we're looking at currently. We don't have that. We have nothing. Mm-hmm. We have nothing but really what's going on with us right now, which is a conversation.
Yeah. I know. It's very funny. I just recently started moving through the like guilt factor, and I'm like, man, maybe I didn't go about that the right way. Maybe I should have like waited a little bit before I started connecting with another person. And then like I recently was like, God, that's so ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like all guilty about this. Like, how many times am I going to connect with a person and not connect with them anymore? It's already happened so many times, but just because it hasn't been like really deep, I'm, only feeling this one situation. But there's going to be a point where I look back in my life and I see so many times where like somebody's hurt me or I've hurt them, and I don't want to have like, I feel like our society just allows us to carry around so much guilt instead of just like processing why something might have happened and like why that decision was made and what we could have done to avoid it.
Unpack that a little bit more. I kind of like where you're taking this.
And not even that, I think, like, genuinely, like, don't think that relationship would have ever been able to handle something like polyamory. But I think, well, what if that was just more, that idea that you're allowed to connect with another person was a little bit more open.
So I'd love to unpack that because I'm really fascinated with that. I would hope that this society, this space, this environment would allow us to unpack experiences, ideas, people, things, all that good jazz. But particularly, I'd love to tap into what you just tapped into, which was like allowing yourself to have experiences, fill gaps, fill voids with different groups of people, because we talk about polyamorous a lot, and I love that. Polyamorous, I think of like people being intimate and a whole bunch of other stuff going on, and like it's its own thing. But what about this idea that people are with people, like they're with one person, they're connected, they're bonded, like monogamous, whatever you want to call it, they're connected to that one person. But what about those people having people who resonate and connect with them and fulfill those voids that the other partner doesn't? And there's no physical intimacy in that regard of there's no sex, because we that's one of the topics that brings this topic full circles, like sex. Okay, I love it. I love physical intimacy. I love sex positive. But what are those other things? I'm talking about like the spiritual, the emotional, like, I don't know, the metaphysical, like, I don't know what we have here. Like, why can't you have those voids filled? And there's even that stipulation that that's weird if you're trying to have somebody fulfill that side of you. Why can't you have that? Like, I don't know, maybe you call me like a radicalist, but I have had that in my life where people have come into my life and they fill those voids. And those are really important voids. Mm-hmm. But I love having a partner too. I love having somebody who I can lay on and connect with and be there with and be a partner with, be a team member with, and get their back. But I love those spheres, those realms of being like, you've been circling back around to them tonight, like with these. Yeah, why don't those get airplay? Like, yeah.
These are one and the same in my mind.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. We have no syntax. We have no language. We have no discourse. We have no rhetoric to discover or talk about the importance that these roles are playing. Where like you, Allie, like you're like I love these certain spheres or places these people inhabit, and why don't we talk enough about those and the importance those play? Yeah. Because when we talk about sex in the future, people's mind goes to the sex part, but there's so much more to that sphere that's so encompassed that doesn't get airplay. I don't know. That's just
I think a like really funny example is like my best friend who like we just call each other platonic soulmates at this point. Because, and that's the thing is like, are there going to start being more terminologies for people that hold certain space in your life? Because like,
or do we even need it?
We don't necessarily need it, but like it is. I feel pathetic when I call her my best friend. You know what I mean? It feels almost like disrespectful. You know, like she's genuinely just like not even my best friend anymore. She's somebody that I've made like a commitment to, like in my heart, that I'm always going to be by her side, and she did the same for me, you know, and we just know that we're probably not going to be able to be away from each other that long, because every time we've tried, it's just not great. There's a void there that's not being filled. So it's interesting to already have an example of that in my life. Like I can only imagine like being in a relationship where somebody's like, what is that? Why are you guys so close? Why do you need to move across? Like seriously, she's moving to Boulder. You know what I mean? Like we genuinely don't feel okay being separate from each other. Yeah, she's doing a new Bluebird. Hopefully.
Oh, yes, please.
But yeah, it's funny to have that example already. Like that is the person that whoever my future partner is gonna have to kind of like accept that she's in there, and she's like, ooh, already done her work. She's earned a huge chunk of my heart. She's in there.
Well, we don't have terms for it, and I've struggled with this. This was one of the big things that I dealt with Brita, one of my exes, and she never got my relationship with Walker. And Walker and I...
Like Walker that I met?
He was here for one of our previous Toonami Society meetings.
He, you know, I never have called him my platonic partner. But I can't think of a person that isn't a family member that I'm closer to. Yeah. And I physically felt my heart break when I moved away from him.
Yeah.
And like knew that I wasn't going to see him the same way. And my girlfriend at the time had a really hard time with that. She was just like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't, like, why am I not enough? Like, why am I not fulfilling you? And unhealthfully undermined our relationship. Like, actively tried to pry us apart because of jealousy, I suppose. Maybe other things. But, yeah. There is no terms for it. And I also think, you know, on my mind a lot recently has been gender roles and stereotypes. And there's been a lot of discussion about women and trans and gay and everything in between. But I don't I don't think males have had any talk. I don't think we've had any sort of, we don't have any terms, we don't have meetings, we don't have anything. And I want to talk to Gabe about this too. I can't go to Walker and feel comfortable saying, like, and I have in the desert on acid, right? Looked at him and been like, you are like my fucking best friend, and that those words do not describe how I feel about you. And like, I'm getting emotional just thinking about these moments. And I can never do that in front of, like, I don't want to say ever do that, but like, it would be incredibly uncomfortable to do that in front of anybody.
Yeah.
And I want to bring a lot more attention and discussion, and this might be unrelated, but I want to bring more attention and discussion to the male gender role and its role in all of this, and bring a fucking magnifying glass to it, and just like I have, for the last, like, ever since all this whole discussion is kind of blown up as far as like gender and the roles that they play and everything and everyone, it seems to me like I see, like, I was at the gay pride parade in San Francisco this summer, and I have never seen a collection of more beautiful people like in one place. It's so concentrated. I just, like, it's impossible for me to envision a group of straight males celebrating themselves in that way. We just don't do it. And it's so heavy. And part of it, like, Gabe, I hear you saying, like, there's no way for me to define or speak to or say words to these gaps, these voids, and like how I want to connect with another person, and how that's so looked down upon because we're supposed to be such and such and whatever. But it's like I am struggling with that too. It's like, what do I do? Like, what do we do for each other? And I think, like, we need to really, and like this Toonami society has really kind of sparked this idea in my mind of starting like a conversation about the male gender role and like what is going on there, and why is it so viewed as being toxic and so viewed as being like necessarily stable, and like why can't we express emotion, and like why can't we make connections with other people? Like, why can't we fucking make connections?
When the puppy's
it
cute,
drives
the puppy's
me
cute.
nuts. You know, like,
I agree.
I'm in school right now, and like this kind of encapsulates the whole feeling. An innocent child, boy or girl, will come up to me seeking the basic human need of human contact that I also have. And they will outstretch their arms, and they will come running at me, and every fiber in my being is like, embrace the hug. I cannot wait to have human contact with this child, with this beautiful creature. But in my mind, who's watching? Who's judging? Who's going to call fucking social services? Who's going to think of me as a pedophile? Who's going to do all these things instantaneously in their mind? And so I high five. You know, I say, how's it going? Or hey, elbows. Or like, I can't authentically and genuinely do that out of fear of
Retribution.
of fucking going to jail. Like, that is like, so that's my rant. I'm done.
Yeah. It just, like, it sucks because I'm surrounded by a lot of fiery energy recently, and I mean, I've been involved in like I am a feminist, obviously, and I've been involved in the feminism talk for many years now, but I've never been able to utter, I hate ever generalizing the male gender. It really just fucking irks me to ever come out of my mouth, and I've still done it probably in the past couple of years, couple sentences here and there, just generalizing, but not like it's always like a joke or something. But like, when I genuinely hear just like generalizations about males, it's just always irked me because it just never made sense in my mind. But I think it's just unfortunate that there's just been a lot of damage caused because of the years of privilege that have been given to those before us. And then now you just have to live with that trauma in your body. You just have to live. Like, it's not like this generation's fault. It's like the generations and generations of men before us that have abused their role in society and have given you this yucky feeling in your makeup and in the way that you fit into the world. And it's unfortunate because then you're kind of also like, well, you have privilege, so we're not going to help you. Why would we help you? You don't need help. And it's just also not true. You know what I mean? It sucks. It does hurt my heart a lot.
It sucks.
I wish that there was more space for that. But I would get death glares from women if I like just outwardly wished that there was more space for men's growth.
Yeah, it kind of sucks not growing up with an emotional toolbox of skills to be like, hey, like, what you're feeling is alright. You don't need to punch a wall.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about it. You can be here in the present moment. You don't, your anger, your feeling, that's alright. Let's channel that. Let's use that.
Mm-hmm.
You are you, and you are beautiful, and you're wonderful, but it's alright. Like, it's okay. And I've seen so many men, I try to think of, like, men who have gotten angry and used that anger productively and channeled it in a healthy way, and I can't think of any men that have been mentors in my life or people who I've looked up to that have been able to deal with a situation and be like, instead it's,
but dude,
man,
that's also, I get it, but I within 7 to 8 days from today punched a wall 5 times.
whoa,
you know what
really?
I mean? So that's just, I get it. I get what you're saying, but like, it's been a problem in this gal's life for many years.
Ali, you punched walls?
Yeah, that was really dumb.
Damn, that's pretty rebellious.
It was very dumb. It was the same wall I was punched as a kid too. New York, huh? I said when I got home, everyone was like, how is it? I was like, it's good. And I was talking to Dan Boone, and I was like, yeah, you know, just New York feeds the things in me that need to be starved. And he was like, I feel you on that. I feel you on that a lot. Yeah, but punching my childhood bedroom wall, and I was just like, you dumbass. Like, you fucking dumbass, what are you doing? You don't do this anymore.
I think you feel anger and you express it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's important too. And as humans, we have the whole range of emotion is available to us, male or female, whatever else you want to identify as. And feeling those is important. And punching a wall is infinitely better than punching a person, you know, or punching any other living thing. I think much more dangerous than punching a wall is repressing it, and keeping it in.
Oh yeah,
and
we
holding
talked
it.
about that.
I mean, because then that's
It builds,
where
right?
the
Fasters.
when murder comes in.
It builds, right? Like,
OJ!
Did you study Foucault at all?
No.
Get into him?
No.
So, when it comes to, like, sexual theory, because, like, you know, I mentioned earlier, like, sex has become a topic in academia in the last 20 years. One of the theories they use is Foucault's, which was this French philosopher. He's very fabulous and ridiculous. But he talked about how, like, sexual repression, like, it's cool, it works, like, it really works. Historically, like, the best way to repress people is be like, what you're doing is bad, you should feel bad, and, like, it's overall really bad. And that worked for a long time. You'd be surprised. But eventually that repression just builds, and builds, and builds.
And it becomes like a fetish for people. You know what I mean? It
blows
doesn't
up.
even work.
Yeah, it blows up, and people, that anger, that frustration, that buildup of energy has got to go somewhere, and if you don't channel it, it's just going to explode. But if you can channel it, and you can correct its navigation, I don't know. We've just seen so much historically of just repression, and it works for only so long. It's a short-term solution, not a long-term answer.
I think what's got me thinking now is this idea of privilege and the shifting of, I don't know if power is the right word. It's not really power. It's, we have this model of males being the dominant in society for pretty much all of society. And it's been challenged in the last 100 years, and it needs to be, and it needs to change. And I think it had to have started the way that it started from one side. And what I've been drawing is there's these two genders with all of these other, maybe equally sized or whatever. Like, it's very amorphic, but the idea is to create some sort of equilibrium, and it needs to start somewhere. It needs to start with one side talking about side. I don't even like that word, but like a group that is able to advocate and recognize that things aren't right. And then here's the side with power. Still, again, I don't like side because we're really all in the same fucking circle here, guys. Let's get it together. But there is this like power, and with the power comes like all these other things like anger, guilt, shame, energy. Maybe not. I don't know. Actually, I don't like any of this. But I could say that this is there, and I think the ideal is here. The idea is to create an equilibrium, and if the pendulum swings this way, because of the amount of oppression, that makes a huge amount of sense. But I think that eventually it will swing back, but we want to find some sort of middle ground, a balance. And I think part of this, this side, when I say this side, I mean like the male gender needs to have its own. It's totally different. Where this was with feminism, I would love to hear your opinion on this, and because I'm speaking totally off the cuff right now, but it was kind of this realization and coming together to bootstrap yourself up into a role that you deserved, and it still has room to grow, and there is still oppression. And this has got to be almost the opposite. This needs to be almost like a counter-revolution, as far as we need to, and this is what's so difficult, and I think this is what's holding back the equilibrium, in my opinion, is that people in power don't want to let go. It's just human nature. We have such a hard time letting go. And what does that look like?
Fight Club?
Fight Club? What does it look like for the male gender to have that, to move towards equilibrium?
Can I have two counterpoints to that really quick while Ali is reflecting? Is one, in regards to religion, I always think there's validity to the fact that before the Judeo-Christian canon took over, there was always the story of Mother Earth, of Gaia, of the idea of the feminine, of the goddess. And it was really cool. I never got to take the class, but I feel like it would have been really fascinating to learn. There were a lot of stories of women and of the Mother Earth taking care of everyone, and it was great, and it was pretty big deal. And then we came in and we're no, male god, he runs the whole thing. So that's pretty cool. So I think women +1 for that back in the day. Plus oh man, there was a lot to that. I think there was definitely a lot to that, and I liked where your head was at, but I just wanted to throw that in there too. That before, like, what we know as religion started, that whole idea of the Gaia, Mother Earth idea. I like that was kind of one of the precursors to that. Before the Judeo-Christian canon kicked in, just as somebody who studies religion, I always think that's worth noting that. Some scholars have hypothesized that before we started that narrative, that was much more of a common narrative because, like, we have, as humans, we really like to dig things up. Really like that. And we have found these statues that I think I have on here in some way, shape, or form. I have, like, the basics of myth. Wherever they are. In one of them. Somewhere. But we have found these statues that again and again are of the female form of this Mother Earth and of this goddess. And it seems like as far as we can date back, the precursor to like what we know as like a religious narrative or tradition has been cited from these figurines that we found that are specifically tailored to the female form, and therefore we have tied together that we worship these female idols, which Plato talked about, female idols, and I think that's pretty cool and worth noting. A lot of people like to skip over that too, because this has taken a lot of historical precedent.
Right, and there's so much here that like totally is coming from my subconscious and like my view. I was thinking very much in terms of as like the feminist movement and what it's up against, whatever that is.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely like a pretty high potential for a shift in like the male's role in society, but a part of me, I don't think that I have any capacity to really have a solid view of what that's going to be like, or when or if it's going to happen, because of just like the daily go around that I have as a female, as a white female, still feeling that I don't really know how that change is going to look or if it's going to happen anytime soon enough for me to even want to put the energy, even though I want that change to happen for the positivity of like the sanctity of male's existence. It almost just like kind of like is a sore subject because I'm like, man, that would be really nice, but I really fucking don't know.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Like, why? It's like asking if like two people, I don't know what the analogy is exactly, but it's basically like, you know, and I didn't mean to like present this in a way that like I don't want to like offload any problems onto anybody else. But okay.
You're totally not. You're not. You're talking to like the least. Building. Like I'm never gonna be like.
No, but I mean, I'm just. It helped me realize for a moment that like that whole movement, this whole swing, what got the pendulum moving came from inside of that group. Like they started, there was no support on this side. Nothing was like, everything was against them. And there's still so much, but they found like, I really having a hard time like saying they, because I'm so caught up in like, we are on the same team. Mm-hmm. But
if you're talking about first generation, you're talking about like suffragettes movements. So we can talk about that. Second generation is like 60s movements, you know, like we're talking like bra burnings, all that stuff, like, you know, fuck the hype, challenge social norms. And then third generation, which I don't personally understand, maybe I could unpack more, maybe we could say that for another topic, but there's waves. There's waves.
All I'm saying is that these waves all came from the people involved in them. Yeah, there was no one on the other side being like, here's how...
should really band together and...
No, but there were.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I'm coming to. That's my conclusion.
Well, it's like weird. The
Right.
reason why I'm like, I don't fucking know is like, this pendulum is, the energy is gonna come from this way to swing it this way. And that's what's weird. Is it going to be genuine? Is it going to last?
To
Is
be
it actually
genuine, this side needs to fucking analyze themselves, ask themselves, and be brutally honest with like the privilege and power that we have, and start a conversation. And I think a lot of people are really afraid to do that because it means letting go of power.
Yeah.
And
look at the disgraceful examples we have in this so-called forward-thinking generation. What the fuck is happening in actual power right now? You know what I mean? Like,
shit's cray.
Whew.
Shit's cray.
And I don't know.
Just a throwback.
Also,
too.
there's. I'm really thankful that like even a space like this exists where we can talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's pretty radical actually. It's kind of cool
because
we think of it not just being it, but it is.
Because imagine having this conversation in any other context. Like you are
if we were at a coffee shop, people
eggshells.
would really be leaning over, being like
this is.
Have fun having this conversation with any other thing.
For like shit, we would be stirring the pot so much it'd be so pissing.
I've tried to approach this conversation with other females, and it's really, really, really uncomfortable. Like more than almost anything other topic. But to me, that's a sign that like that's what needs to be talked about. Like that's what needs to be discussed.
I would agree.
I think my deeply rooted empath way is to be able to just really have way better conversation skills than most, because I just don't ever want to put down somebody else's experience, kind of, you know. But a lot of people, most people aren't empaths, but they think that they are. Until they get into a conversation like that, and they're like, "No, you're fucking wrong."
Let's just keep
it.
it.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Allie, thank you for being part of this conversation too. That's like really cool to delve into this topic.
Yeah, I would love to have so many more discussions on like.
No, I agree. This
could be an ongoing. Yeah, that came up last time.
Yeah.
I feel like this topic is very close to the heart, like self-love, where I feel like it's going to require a part 2.
Might be a sort of dichotomous. I just like I'm looking at this and it's like there's a line and 2 circles.
No, I
sounds very similar to like the yin and yang of Taoism, does it not?
But I tried to make more circles.
This was a really fun. This was a really fun topic.
It's 10 o'clock. Oh my god!
I know. So the thing about Allie is, I love it, and I didn't want to bring it up, but when I am figuring out that when we have 6 people, it's great. We can go like 2 hours. It's fun. We bring it full circle. It's really cool. A lot of people, hopefully, they can hear. With the screen is a little loose, so just hold it like this and hit it, and you should be fine.
Hold it like up and
like hold it up. I really love when we have 3 people, because when we have 3 people, we can unpack so much in this talk. It's really cool. We can like respond to each other. We have enough room to expand our ideas. It's really, really fun. With 6 people, you kind of have to jump around really quick. I know. It's a lot to take in. Keep it. Obviously, THC. When it is 3 of us, it is surprisingly easy to push it past 2 hours. Like, we've gotten to the 2-hour mark and been like, holy shit, Allie, we have work tomorrow and we've been talking for 2 hours. This is what I expected. This is what I assumed would happen. It's pretty cool. If it's alright with everybody, I would love to circle back around and take an extra. It's almost 10. We might as well take another 15 minutes to bring it back around full circle. I'd like to provide a space for final thoughts, reflections, and ideas where people can respond to thoughts. bring it full circle however they'd want, and then we usually take a period of 5 minutes to brainstorm for the next topic, and then we call it a night. I think that's fair. This was really fun. Thank you for coming again. I don't get a lot of times to really gush or appreciate or give props, but people have responsibilities, they have lives, they have all these things that catch them up in everyday life. Every time we have a meeting, you show up, you contribute, you're ready to talk. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate you. You're wonderful.
Yeah,
Seriously,
thank you for giving me the space.
Of course, I'm so honored to provide you a space to where you feel so comfortable that you come back again and again, and you're like, no, I love it. I love this.
No.
Let's keep it going. So, seriously, like, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're awesome.
You're the best.
You're the best. Seriously. And Addison, he is 2 episodes in now, and he absolutely loves it. He's like, no.
Did you come to the episode previous to this one? Oh, so you met Shannon too.
Yep, you met Shannon, Colin, Soren, and Julia, all completely new members. They had never been to it before, and so he
had a good discussion too.
Yeah.
I heard it was good. Yeah.
And so, yeah, thank you both for being here tonight. I mean, I have my own final thoughts. I'd love to reflect on them more, but if anybody else has something to reflect on or really conclude with, I'd love to give them the space to do so. I'd love to just allow for a minute or two for that, because that was a fun talk tonight, you know?
I don't have any content as far as wrapping up thoughts or like any intellectual contact.
I feel so open.
Yeah.
But what I do want to say at the end of all of this is, again, express my gratitude for providing the space and inviting me. And like, this is something that I didn't realize that I need in my life. And I had for a while, then lost, and here it is again. So I'm very, very thankful to always be here. And also very thankful to you for being open to ideas and like not at all ever feeling like I am at risk of being judged or not heard. And that is invaluable. And so I appreciate both of you for providing that.
I'm waiting to beat you up for when he does.
That's fine. I don't understand.
Man, that we're not on the podcast. Yeah, get him with the elbow.
Why'd you just keep redrawing that line, huh?
I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to talk about it.
Draw the line.
I'm trying to get okay.
Yes. Yeah. I don't feel like I have wrapping up thoughts because of the fact that I feel like we could talk about this for like 8 episodes.
No, seriously.
But yeah, no, I feel so much gratitude, especially after going home for a week and then also not having Toonami the 2 weeks before that. Like, it's been a while and I've had a lot of jumbled stuff going through my brain, so it felt very nice and sacred to come and have a really interesting and intimate topic such as this one, and to not feel judged and to feel understood majority of the time, encouraged. Yeah.
Oh man, bringing it full circle. I'm not used to being last. I'm immediately drawn back to the fact that Alan, thank you for being here. Addison, thank you for being here. This is such a unique and unusual thing we're doing here, and the fact that every week I have no idea what to look forward to. Like, it might be 3 of us, it might be 4 of us. Hell, last time it was 6 of us. Again and again, this environment is providing a space for ideas and conversations and situations of which I'm constantly surprised, constantly engaged, and constantly just really blown away by. This has just been so fun and so cool. I would love to delve into this topic again with a part 2. And yeah, it feels like, once again, so many of these topics, I love it. It feels like we're really just skimming the surface of everything that's going on here, but it's so engaging to me in that it's really cool to just talk about ideas and bounce off with each other, different conversations and different topics, and kind of see where it goes and bring it really full circle. And it has been so fun. This is episode 10. Who knows where it will go or what it will evolve to, or how things might change or alter. And I couldn't be more just blown away by this experience and amazed by it. So thank you to Addison, thank you to Allie for being here tonight. I can imagine this getting to episode 100, and it's just it is so different and evolved and adapted and changed from the structure, and I'm cool with that. I want this to be a space where
we're all gonna
ideas,
have microphones in front of us.
headphones. I'll be like, Allie, here's the blunt.
Yeah, we're gonna be on Apple and Spotify.
Brought to us by our advertisers, Bluebird Botanicals. We're a big fan of the Complete Six Acts and Snoop Dogg and the VR equipment. Relationships in the future. That's the thing.
Society's theme song is just like the background to
you
drop it like a top.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. No,
proud of us for not talking about robots fucking.
I know, because that would have been too easy. But with me, so I can bring that full circle. I hope with every episode 10 we can bring it full circle, and that is never my goal. That is never my hope, and that is never my dream. I don't want to market this. I don't want to make money off this. I don't want to advertise this. This should be for people who are interested in ideas and conversations, and if anything, this should just spark an idea in them where they're like, hey, look at these people, they're just getting together and they're talking and they're having a conversation, and it seems like for the most part, most of them are having a good time, and this is cool. I could literally do this, and I say, yes, you can. That's all we're doing here. I'm not paying you. You're coming here on your own volition. You're not signing a waiver. This isn't a paid.
People want to pay us for it. I'm fine with that. But yeah, you don't have to pay.
If people want to support us, if people want to support this and give us resources and be like, hey, you should do this, I'm all for it. But there's never a goal in mind to like make anything of this, except just share the experience. Where this is a space. This is a space to come together, have a conversation, and share ideas. Really, and we have proved that it is possible because we are here at episode 10, and it's like imagine where it will go. I'm so excited. I have so many thoughts and ideas. And I'm looking forward to it all. So, with that, I'd love to take a minute or two to take a moment of reflection, and as we do at every one of our meetings, take the last few minutes of it to maybe brainstorm and hypothesize for our next meeting, which will be episode 11. We can brainstorm some ideas for it. How do people feel? Yeah? Nay? Yeah?
I want to use my same. I want to throw the ones that I put in already in the hat.
Okay, so we have chivalry.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds
opioid
fun.
crisis.
Mm-hmm. Even more fun.
The only other ones I have here from you are relationship structure, technology difference, perception, work absorbed, tact, unpack, and more apps.
Okay.
So I only have chivalry topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goes to the docket. I like them.
Okay. So hold on. Take a moment to breathe. It's really fun at our holiday party. I got to do this with Mark and Julia. So, let's straighten our chairs. Get comfortable. Shake ourselves out of the posture that we have been in for the last few minutes. I'm going to set a stopwatch, and for approximately 2 minutes, we're just going to do some deep breathing. You can do open-eyed or closed-eyed, but we're going to basically do that to bring us back to the full center, present moment, to be engaged, and then we're going to do a session of brainstorming, which is one of my favorite portions of the podcast. That is where we take 3 minutes to, as Allie's familiar with, we brainstorm ideas for 3 minutes. When we're set, you'll basically shout out ideas, make suggestions, anything that comes up to mind or that you're passionate about or that you'd like to speak about for the next podcast. So with that, we're just going to take a moment of 2 minutes of reflection, starting now.
Some good ones.
I heard some pops too. Feel free to hold those breaths in as you breathe in and breathe out. And time. Perfect. That was pretty cool. That's a new addition. I haven't implemented it before, so thank you. I thought that one might be a nice, easy transition because we just talked about a heavy topic that none of us expected, that went in all sorts of different directions that we probably might have guessed it might have done, and that was pretty cool. So with the last few minutes of the session, we are going to take 3 minutes to brainstorm possible ideas in this sphere and realm. Feel free to, like an old Shakespearean play, shout out whatever you're interested in, what you'd like to talk about, but just shoot idea. That is the goal, that is the hope. Without further ado, let's do it, folks. I'm going to do immediately sex in the future part 2 because that was great.
Origin of consciousness.
Origin of consciousness, I love it.
Monsters.
Monsters.
I always riff with this because it's one of my favorites, but I'm just going to go with bright lights.
Rivers.
Rivers makes me think of Egyptian myths.
Haiku.
That makes me think of slam poetry.
Addiction.
Public transportation.
That makes me think of growth.
Modern agriculture. Veganism.
Competition.
Rather plant-based diets.
Plant-based diet.
Because I don't want to talk about one structure.
I want to talk about gatherings.
Ceremonies.
Fireworks.
Trade work.
For some reason, heartfelt is in the back of my mind.
Inheritance.
Knowing oneself.
I'm gonna put bookshelf. What's on my bookshelf?
Does that count? Or is that the
No,
same?
I just wrote about that.
American heroes. Be very interested to see who everybody would come with.
That makes me think of propaganda, not just riffing off that. I like that.
Something rather than nothing.
Ooh, I like that.
Something versus nothing?
That is, I gotta say, we usually only do like 3 minutes. Holy shit, that was like the most suggestions I've ever gotten in one session of brainstorming. We literally had like 20 plus suggestions, I think.
And they're all like, that's the thing too, is like, we gotta have a database at a certain point. Like, cause they can't get lost.
I'm gonna start bringing more pen and paper.
Yeah,
This is the
organizational
first
tools.
time I came without my backpack ever.
I know, I noticed that. You rolled solo.
I meant to
tonight,
bring
like
one
that.
tonight. I didn't think of it.
I just rolled up with my brain today, you know.
That's good.
I like
sometimes,
it.
too.
That's all that's ever asked. You bring yourself and we'll try to provide the rest. Smokables, drinkables, and everything else you need.
Say drinkable.
Yeah, drinkables, water,
There's
alcohol.
smoking hops in here.
Maybe one day.
Pancake.
Thanks for the beer, dude.
Of course, man.
Tall. It's a tall man.
It is. They're,
tall-
like,
it's
they're
a
only
tall
like $3 down the way, man. It's crazy. Ridiculous. But with that, yeah, it concludes the Toonami Society episode 10. Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh wow, this one was to the point where I think it ended it.
Just cut it off.
Yeah, well this one's so
Recording
old.
equipment. That's a new topic we need.
Yeah, trust me, I'm gonna try and upgrade.
I don't want to talk about recording equipment. Let's talk about my avoidance and like buying myself the ample. Like I have an interface and a microphone and like all the stuff to record music, and then I just